Free advice, would you like some free advice? Free advice forever.
Forever and ever.
Welcome back. Episode 30?
Is it really? Oh my
We're
goodness.
Either 30 or 31, but yeah.
Oh my god, 30 and flirty. Here we are.
Yeah.
How are you guys? Whoa, shoot. I'm not supposed to ask that.
Morgan, every time you ask
Every
that.
time. I know. Well, I want to know how they are, but they're not. They're
like-
abstract and amorphous.
I know. How can they tell us how they are?
By going inside themselves and checking in with themselves. I mean, we won't get the feedback.
That's how they'd know how they are, but how would they communicate that to us?
Emailing us at freeadvicepodcast@gmail.com.
Great.
Way after the fact.
Which is something that, you can do with any of your dilemmas, any of your pitches for handling our online marketing systems or whatever the fuck we've been getting spammed for. Or just feedback about the show or how you're doing, and we'll address it on the podcast if you want us to, and we'll hide your identity if you want us to, and you'll become a part of history because this is going all the way to the top, and you can say, I got in when it was just on the 31st floor.
Wow.
People will say at cocktail parties, wow, what are your genitals like? I wonder after you said that, they'll say.
Uh-huh.
The good people that
like
you want
big,
to be thinking that.
Big and
I mean, it's really,
hefty?
it depends on what your values are. Are you in a Roman era where it's preferred to have minute and svelte genitals?
Really?
Or do you identify as female and you want, you prefer words like juicy or sweet?
So you don't want your dick to be juicy and sweet, or do you? Is that just a plus, but it's not essential?
Those aren't the prime values that my dick aspires to uphold. Or
What are the prime values?
I think
your dick?
reliable is probably number one, like a car.
Yeah.
It's very car-like.
Put it in drive, park it,
Yes.
steer.
I think I'm remembering some stand-up I overheard it's like in the background audio of Joker, the movie, where there's a stand-up comic talking about how sex for guys is a lot like parking a car. I don't remember all the setup, but I remember he was like, oh, a handicap spot. Let's hope nobody sees this.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
That's loaded.
It is. It is.
I like it, though.
It was funny in the movie, and it contrasts with our hero is not as prepared with the zingers or the loaded material. He's got like a couple. He basically just giggles at himself for a long time up there, and it's uncomfortable for the audience and the audience in the theater as well as the audience in the diegetic world.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really spoiling much.
No,
His
you're
dream
not,
is to
of
be
course.
a stand-up comic, and
Yeah.
he's bad at stand-up comedy, which you would know based on the first scene.
Sure.
Seeing
Yeah,
this
yeah.
person.
Certainly not accusing you of spoiling it. I'm just letting you know that I have very limited knowledge.
Yeah.
So you are going to have to supply me
Is
with
it something you're interested in seeing?
Yeah, it is.
I think, I recommend it to you.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it, but it's like right now, the top movie I want to see. However, it's like, am I going to get around to seeing a movie?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Based on everything else going
Sure.
on. So I probably will when I'm home with my parents, but it's possible they've already seen it because they.
I would not want to see this with my parents.
Okay.
Not your parents or not my parents, but
yeah.
But I think you'll enjoy seeing this with someone more of that views our generation in through a similar lens as you do.
Okay. Is
I
there
think,
any
and mental
anything about
health
that?
in particular
Yeah.
through a similar lens.
Yeah.
I don't know that your parents do. Maybe they do, but
Yeah.
yeah. I think my reference points are like having seen and liked The Dark Knight. Understanding something about the repressed anger and hatred and feeling of disconnection that much of our country suffers from, that I believe helped get Trump elected.
Right.
I think that's a reference point for this movie that a lot of people will take to it.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, like comedy and the role of humor in general. So like,
Yeah.
I think it would be a good one to watch with somebody who you laugh with.
Okay.
And especially laugh at like sick or fucked up things with. There are some moments in the movie that are a bit questionable about whether the audience is being invited to laugh at this thing that a character is laughing at because it's so fucked up.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's a movie I'll take myself to.
Yeah, that would be a good. Yeah,
Me, myself, and I laugh at some sick stuff.
I was at a couple of moments the only person laughing in the theater, and
Yeah.
I felt a mix of like pride and shame, and just noticing that I was unique. And I was like,
What
I
a
bet some of you
cocktail.
fuckers are also thinking this is funny right now, but you just like are afraid to laugh at
Yeah.
the little person or whatever the joke is, whatever the butt of the joke is, culturally or politically insensitive. But it was really funny what just happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Would you say that you're freer, you think, than the average person as far as their reaction to receiving
I think
information? Like that?
I stray away from fewer things just because of the topic. There are fewer off limits topics with me.
Yeah, right.
I enjoy exploring just about everything. There are a couple things I'm like, I'd just rather not go there and dig into that.
Okay.
And that's time sensitive. And my overall lifelong goal is like to dig every
Break
hole
down
possible.
all the walls,
Yeah, like shine a light wherever there is darkness in my psyche.
Yeah.
It's not my only lifelong goal, but it's one thing
Right.
that I aspire to do.
You will be working on it for your whole life.
Yes,
Probably.
and at a particular moment, there might be like, oh, this is like, I'm a little bit sore in that spot right now. Do we really need to go into that topic because I just had this experience with this person, and like it's just going to bring all that up. So like, I'd rather avoid this in this moment. But right now, I feel pretty clear. There's always a couple pain points like that, but
Sure.
I'm hesitant to discuss something like that on the air because I would be giving ammunition to my worst enemies by telling them, here's the things that you can bring up that would hurt me the most. Is that vulnerability?
Yeah.
Is that what vulnerability is?
I suppose so. Yeah. It's a great working definition.
Yeah.
How many of your enemies hate you so much that they're listening to your podcast?
Legions.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case,
Scores.
keep it tight then. Keep it wrapped up.
No. I don't know that any of my enemies listen to my podcast.
How many enemies do you have?
Many of them would not identify themselves as my enemy, but I know that they're my enemy.
Okay, what's your definition of enemy then?
Someone opposed to me.
Okay, define opposition.
Somebody who is counter to or working against the things that I am working towards. And not everybody knows what I'm working
right.
towards, so they don't necessarily know that they're an antagonist. Or
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So someone who...
I haven't thought about this before. This is interesting.
So someone who is either consciously or unconsciously standing in the way of what is success to you or what you define as like your goal.
Sorry, is
Someone
that a
who
question?
is so someone who is consciously or like, does the intention have to be there? But someone who's standing in the way as an obstacle in some way to your growth or success.
So that's an interesting. I don't know if I'd use the word enemy for all of them.
Sure.
If we're talking about terms now,
Yeah.
maybe it's the wrong term for me to use for this status. But I'm thinking of like, say that I like a girl and she has a boyfriend she's in a committed relationship with, and he's a good guy. That doesn't make him my enemy.
Right.
If he's standing in the way of me getting closer with that girl.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's as fundamental of a goal necessarily for you.
At times
Unless
it
you
feels
were
like the most important thing.
Sure,
if there's a moment that I'm really caught up on somebody, then it's like...
Yeah. It depends on the person.
Yeah, exactly. That's not the majority of the time for me, but I'm sure that'll happen again, or that's happened before.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend in college who called my boyfriend the goalie. I mean, it was playfully, of course.
Yeah,
but it was a funny
remember
conception.
doing recon on that guy, asking Wes about him, and being so bummed to hear that he was actually great and really good for you. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Which guy, Cream?
Yeah. That was the goalie, right?
Yeah. Shout out
He blocked
to Kareem.
more.
was
He
so
blocked
sweet.
shots that you didn't even know were coming, or you found out later, I guess.
Yes, I'm retrospectively aware. Retroactively. Yeah.
Because
what a
your
sweetie.
Facebook didn't say in a relationship, and I that really made me do some digging because I checked where you're supposed to check, which is on Facebook, and it didn't fucking say anything. So I was like, Wes, does that mean what I think it means? And he was like, Nah, actually, there's a goalie, and he's really good. His block percentage is solid. Like,
That's so funny. Yeah, I've never really subscribed to like actually putting your relationship status on Facebook.
why not?
Well, number one, my relationship status is always changing.
Okay.
It's always apt to change.
So you would be, I think you can change it without it posting that you've changed. Like the default used to be, it would post a story that your relationship status has changed from dating to single.
Right.
Now you can make it just like stealth swap that out so that it doesn't become a story that people can like.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I need people to know or even want people to know what my relationship status is. Because I'm always simultaneously dating and single.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, I think maybe you don't know what your relationship status is. And that would be the first hurdle, is figuring out what you would even put.
I mean, it's definitely complicated.
Yeah.
That's a really good candidate to choose. But I could put in a relationship with myself, like in a relationship, and then tag like my own self
good.
or
Make
money.
a second Facebook for you with a little goatee drawn on.
That's the only person I'm dating seriously now.
If you were going to date a part of yourself or a version of yourself or some aspect
of my like
or
alter
hypothetical
egos?
of you, what kind of or piece of Morgan would you date?
I love this question.
Thank you.
And I am fully prepared to answer it.
Great.
I think that my top tier answer of the Morgan that I would date is the version of me that's very like playful and silly and is always coming up with some kind of something to do that will make me laugh or just kind of be like light and interesting or making something interesting or fun out of nothing. That Morgan.
Can you name that one?
I mean, I think that they're all parts of me. Maybe
But
like
that persona or that mask, that blank Morgan
laugh
or
leader.
Morgan blank. Oh, laugh leader Morgan or just
Yeah.
the laugh leader?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say like maybe who I was as like on P Waves as the crew leader. Like kind of one of my crewlings said about me that like I was always the party. Like wherever I was like the party.
Sure.
And I think of that as like, you know, I'm coming up with things to do and it's fun to be around me. And I think the fun side of me that kind of gets other people interested in being silly or playing with an idea or, you know, a tangible object. Second Morgan that I would date.
Oh, you want to be dating multiple Morgans?
Of course.
Great. Is Laugh Leader Morgan on board with this, or is it going to take some convincing to get Laugh Leader Morgan to
She would
open
giggle
up
and then be like, yeah, I'm totally down.
No jealousy?
No.
Laugh Leader Morgan has no insecurities that might be poked by you sleeping around with other Morgans?
Probably deal with her pain by laughing about it, making a joke. And then that would be the way to process it for her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable, or would you find that in some cases?
I feel just fine about it.
At all times, or are there ever times when laughing off a feeling is
it's more like
for you?
laughing through a feeling than laughing off would have to be. So the second and third personas that I'm kind of teetering between.
Excited for you to see Joker. Go on.
Yeah. Would be first the sort of like seductive romantic Morgan.
Yeah.
So this would be like the version of me that's kind of like looking in the mirror doing finger guns at myself like, yeah, you sexy devil. And you know, kind of like dresses up, flirts, is very like confident and in control and like looks for the first Morgan like looks for laughs and this Morgan kind of looks for romance.
Yeah.
And intrigue.
Okay.
And then the third one would be sort of the coach, nurturer, mother side of me that I've lately, this is the one I've been like working on the most, bringing forward to help me reparent my inner child, to provide nurturing instead of judgment, to provide emotional comfort instead of, let's not deal with this. Let's not be present with this. But the person that's like, no, I got you. Like we're here together and kind of like, I will, you know, hold myself physically. Like I'll put usually a hand on my heart like I'm doing right now and a hand around my stomach and kind of just like sit with myself. I could even like rock or bounce or kind of
burp yourself.
Sway. Yeah. I could kind of burp myself. Yeah. That person always knows what to do, has the answers, but not in a way of like, oh, I know everything, but is just kind of wise. This would be an ideal mother type.
And that's your tertiary partner.
Yeah.
What does the relationship with them look like compared to the other two?
That one is primarily characterized by unconditional love.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as the things you do with them, like when you go to them or what your communication is like, what events you invite them to along with the others versus...
Yeah. Ideally, I like to be all three, kind of
Date all
rotating
three?
between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because to me, romance or, an ideal primary partner would be all of those three things. A playmate, a charmer, and like seducer, and then a caretaker and nurturer. I think those are probably the top three things I'm looking for. And so those are the three things that I care most about cultivating or showing up with as myself. Yeah. So I want to ask the question back to you.
Sure. I would most want to date Laugh Leader Morgan, and then Coach Morgan, and then Seducer Morgan.
Oh, okay.
In that order.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. I meant for you, your personas that you would date. Versus which ones of mine would you date? But
no,
great, good to know.
I knew that. I was just making one of my jokes.
Okay. Do you want to tell me what you don't like specifically about the seductive Morgan?
No, you already know.
What?
Oh, you don't?
No.
Well, I'll tell you off air.
Oh.
I love how you react whenever I say that.
Oh my God. Oh, and then it just is like lingering thing, kind of like behind my head, where I'm like, ooh, this is something to go back to. But I'll probably forget, honestly.
I find that when you are trying to be attractive, you are less attractive to me.
Oh, we discussed.
Yeah, it's a general presentation way of being, and I'm turned off by that, and I'm more turned on by when you are not attempting, or when you're not like in that mode.
Yeah. I think that what I would say to that is that ideally there's a version of myself as a seducer that's less of like it's put on and it's more natural. But I understand, and it makes sense that you would
maybe I haven't caught a glimpse of that, or I'm not saying in all cases.
Sure.
Like, you are probably good at seduction too in your other moments. I mean, like,
obviously I've successfully seduced you multiple times, so it's not like something I'm worried about. But
I don't know if that's...
Oh, really?
I may have done, run some lines with an imaginary Morgan in my head beforehand, and that's... But really, what was seducing me was me.
I mean, yeah, right? That's always how it is.
So, versions of me I would most date.
Yeah.
The me that's pretending that they're Morgan in my head before actually seeing Morgan. A great lean back from the mic.
Yeah. I'm working on my mic technique.
Audio engineer Rob, second. No. I encountered this question when I had the idea for my one-man show of, okay, what if I did a rom-com where I dated myself? Okay, well, what is dating myself? How do I distinguish between one me and the other me? And the answer that I settled on was I would like to date the best possible future version of myself, the person that I would like to be. That's who I will date. Yeah. By like going and planning events for me and that person, and learning things from them, which is just me looking shit up online. Like, how do I cook this dish? Okay, well, future me is going to show me. And then by the time the date is over, I will have learned it.
So what are the traits that future you has?
Well, that's conditional based on what I feel like I'm missing at the moment.
Sure.
And when I was writing that show, it was like time management skills. It was prioritizing, setting boundaries with other people. It was taking care of my body and my mind, and like focusing my attention on the things that I cared about, and not on social media or Reddit or whatever, porn or whatever thing was like drawing my attention and sapping energy from things that I cared about, like making music or writing a musical. So the show was kind of an Ouroboros in that way of like, by focusing on the show, I had something to write about, because the show was about writing the show and getting rid of the things that were stopping me from writing the show. Yeah.
So what right now are you most missing?
Oh, man. Well, I just went solo camping for 2 nights, and that was something that I've been wanting to do for like a month. And I think I'm missing just downtime where it doesn't feel like there's anything that I want to accomplish with it. And I experienced that so purely on Tuesday, because I kept having these creeping thoughts of, ooh, I could get this thing done, or I could get that thing done. Oh, I've got all this time. I could finish this book finally. I could do the exercises in this book that I've put off.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, no, how about I do whatever I want in the moment the whole day? Let's just see how that feels. Like, that'll be my thing that I can accomplish if I need to put it in that framework.
Yeah, I love that.
So that is what has felt like is missing. I feel like I live in an overly... Right now, I feel like there are a lot of hands on my time. Mm-hmm. And it's a good problem. I'd rather have that than... Well, what do I do? I've done nothing the last several days, and I'm not really excited to do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just liked reclaiming some time for myself and not feeling responsible for anybody else, or feeling like I have to even consider them because my phone wasn't on. And okay, I'm just gonna like eat when I want to eat, dance when I want to dance, give myself a massage, listen to music, go for a hike.
Good.
It was great. Yeah.
Good. I'm so glad that you did that.
Thank you.
Unstructured Rob.
Yeah. I wrote a song about it in 2015 called Out for the Day, about just like wanting to get away from the city and the billboards and everything like that and just go for a walk through the woods so I could like clear my mind. And I was singing it to myself in the woods, and I was like, when I wrote this, I had never actually done this yet by myself.
Wow.
And now I've done it like 3 or 4 times where I've just gone away alone, and it's like, I wonder how many of the songs that I write are letters to myself of things, my ideal, and I'm like trying to paint my heaven or paint my what I'd really like to be doing by making that song as like kind of a reminder to myself of what I believe or what my ideal is.
Yeah. I often look back at things that I've done or written or just kind of like philosophies or priorities I've had and been like, oh, wow, what a great prediction that I made about like what would my life would be like or what some goal would accomplish. Because I look back and be like, oh, that past version of me that I thought was so clueless and bumbling around really knew what the fuck she was talking about. I mean, of course, there are areas where she didn't and areas of growth. But a lot of times when I'm in an intuitive place, like I would imagine you were when you were like writing that song, that desire would have held true.
Yeah. And I just built upon it with time. I gained skills that enabled me to do that. I met people who validated that alternative reality and showed me like, oh yeah, I've done that. Or here's where you go. Or here's what you need. Here's how you cook for yourself. Here's how you set up a tent. Here's how you the various people who've taught me the sub skills that allowed me to do something like take myself on a trip from Monday evening to Wednesday morning where I don't have phone service and I'm capable of dealing with the hiccups. Like there was a road that was closed and I didn't have fuel to cook with. And I was like, okay, I can keep solving these problems. It was colder than I expected. Like just keep, like The Martian. Have you seen that movie? With Matt Damon?
No, I mean, I've heard of it, obviously.
With Matt Damon. You know who Matt Damon is, right?
Yeah, I do.
Ben Affleck's
and somehow
guy.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He had that cameo in Interstellar. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Sure.
I'm not going to say what he did in it, but he was in that movie for a good hot minute. Anyway,
So-
you solve one problem, and then you solve the next, and then you solve the next. That's just
Yeah.
the thesis of that movie, I think.
And I notice a lot of people struggling with, well, I'm not going to solve this first problem. I'm not even going to take one step forward because all the future problems I might have to solve in the future.
Yeah.
And not sort of being like, okay, but my goal is to take a step towards this bigger thing. So I'm going to take whatever that first step is and trust that I will be able to solve whatever comes up. And it will be like that. You explore and then you kind of condense. Explore, condense. Yeah.
Explore and exploit.
Sure.
They have that nice 4 letters of similarity at the beginning. Explore, exploit. Explore, exploit. Exploration is inhalation. Exploitation is exhalation. I take in the oxygen of my life experiences and
once I'm full,
breathe out the carbon dioxide of my distilled wisdom, poetry, songs, comedy, podcasts like this one. I'm breathing on you. Ooh, you feel that hot breath on your neck? That's Bobby Joe.
exploiting you.
Yeah, exploiting you real hard right now. In your ear holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we exploit our listeners' ear holes with the lightning round?
Yeah, let's
You feel
find
like
some
going in
people
there?
who didn't volunteer to be on a podcast on Reddit and just thought they were going to do a text-only advice request. And let's give them an audio version, which is going to be like way more personal and like, whoa, okay, I could actually hear the people's voices. It wasn't just letters on a screen.
Yeah.
You know, we have idiolects.
What does that mean?
Thank you for asking. I just learned the term. An idiolect is an individual's signature dialect. It's their own personalized way of talking. The phrases that they use more than others, the misphrases, you know, if somebody is one of those folks who said, I could care less instead of I couldn't care less, that's part of their idiolect. It's part of many people's idiolect. But all of those like things, you know, if somebody's going to do an impression of the president or something, they're going to study his idiolect.
Right, right.
So Obama's will be like, you know, folks, and all of that.
Yeah.
Like the word folks and just the pauses. Those are all things that define Obama's idiolect. And people from the same family have more similar idiolects to each other. So it's fun to like meet your friend's parents and realize, oh, they all do that verbal tick that person does.
Yeah. And then some are like regional and it goes out in terms of radii.
I learned this in a communication book called The Usual Error, which is right here.
I saw it. Yeah.
And
What's up with that?
The point of that chapter was everybody who speaks English with each other is actually speaking different languages because we have these idiolects. So it's important to define terms like love, sex, sometimes, a little, anything that's like
any ambiguity.
Yeah, those things mean
has.
a few. Some people think like everyone knows a few is 5 or 6, and other people are like, no, a few is definitely 3.
Right.
That's an argument that they bring up of like, you said there were a few sandwiches left, and I ate 3 of them, and now they're all gone. Why'd you do that? And they're like, okay, we have to define our terms. Everybody speaks their own idiolect. Even consulting the dictionary and deciding that one of us is right is not a good way to solve that because you may be in an area where more of your friends use the other thing, and ultimately it's best to probably just settle on the thing that makes it easiest for you to navigate your life, not like follow the dictionary as a rule.
Yeah. When I coach or when I think about myself coaching, I very much think about myself almost as I want to say a person who studies linguistics. I was going to say linguisticician, but I don't know what the noun for that is.
Yeah, great.
But I really think of myself as kind of learning their language, translating it to my language, and then translating the messaging I'm trying to impart on them into their language.
Sure.
So that they receive it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like the thing that you might encounter an idea that's super profound to you at 28 or 29, but you've seen it so many times in your life before that. And it's just, this is the time that somebody used my words, and it was at a moment that I was ready to hear that message. Something like self-love. I've been hearing about that my whole fucking life. But maybe like somebody used the right word in this book that I was primed to hear because I was already speaking that way, and that's when the message finally landed.
Yeah, and sometimes it's marketing. Like you need to hear something, they say, like 14 or 15 times before you really are receptive to it or make a decision based on it.
Okay.
Anyway, so
let's show these folks our idiolects and our accents and shit.
Yeah. Okay. So this one is a statement that is a call for advice.
Ooh.
And it comes to us from Not Really Sure Why I'm Here. And it just says, I need a senior quote for tomorrow. So I would like to brainstorm some ideas.
They're not going to get this in time.
Not really sure why I'm here. No, they're not. That's a great point.
That's a great quote, too. Because you can be wrong. Like, oh, they did get it in time, so do you want to change it?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we'll just imagine that they need a senior quote in general.
Yeah.
And maybe future people will be looking for a senior quote and will stumble upon this podcast episode and will be inspired by what we have to say to high schoolers about their own lives.
Yeah, I don't know. Those who care don't mind, and those who mind don't care.
Yeah.
Or matter. Either one. Both work. Those who matter don't care, and those who care don't matter.
How about just like nobody matters? Nothing matters.
Yeah, that's one that you can then post 10 years later on Facebook and be like, oh, look at how dark I was in high school.
Yeah, I think the best advice that I could give on this topic is like, start with what do you want to communicate? Do you want it to have relevance now? Do you want it to have relevance when you're looking back on your high school yearbook in 10 years?
Yeah.
Obviously, this person doesn't care that much that they're reaching out one day before to get something. But, you know, you could kind of say something that's reflecting on your experience in high school. You could say something that's where you're at right now, just to be a snapshot of like, this is what my life is like. Or you could say something that's
about the future, what you want the future to look like. And then you could be like, wow, when I was 18,
I prophesied
I was hoping that I'd be an umpire, and now I'm calling the shots. And okay, look at me now, folks. Other people who came back to gloat at their high school reunion, look at us. Look at what we made of ourselves.
Look how accurately I predicted this. I should be a meteorologist.
Yeah, I think
I'm giving up umping.
It would be fun to do like a 2028 presidential election prediction. You know, when do you think Kanye will be president? Because he obviously will, the way that things are going. But which year is it? That'd be a fun one.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Kanye by 2036, you might say.
I love it.
2034. Sorry.
That's okay.
I picked a year that, unless we switch up the schedule and do away with the whole
Maybe
system.
Maybe he's a senator.
Maybe. I think that'd be a good starting point.
Yeah.
That's how Barack started. And they're both from, came out of Chicago. Not born in Chicago. Barack's not. He was born in the Middle East, I believe. But
yeah.
Okay.
So choose a presidential candidate that you think is likely. What?
Saying that he was born in the Middle East.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't listening.
It was a joke. Okay. This is a funny one. Not really.
My attention level was so minimal, it kind of slid through the when political things happen, a part of my brain shuts off.
What do you start thinking about?
Just maybe there's seeking like what's going to be next. The automatic program that runs in my mind when I'm not just listening is like, okay, what am I going to say next, or what's going to happen next? Okay. Anyway, you're so welcome for all that great advice.
Good ass job, Robin.
Okay, so the next lightning round question, Pachu, comes to us from StrangeEchidna, ECHIDNA.
Echidna.
What is that?
You know Knuckles?
Knuckles, like these knuckles on my hand?
How cute.
What?
Okay, so there's Sonic, and there's Tails. And then
what category of items are we talking about here?
Sonic
and
the Hedgehog.
Oh, the Hedgehog.
And Tails, the cute as hell boy fox.
Okay.
And Dr. Eggman, Dr. Robotnik.
And who's Echidna?
And Knuckles the Echidna, the red one.
Okay, so Echidna is a creature of some kind?
Yes.
Okay.
It's hedgehog-esque.
Okay.
It's in that general family.
Okay, so StrangeEchidna asks, when do I say I love you, or ILY? They abbreviate. Not with her anymore.
I wouldn't say it like that, personally.
Yeah, spell it out, generally, is what's recommended. Not with her anymore, but when I was with my ex, I'd say ILY, and she'd overreact. Like we had gone out for 2 weeks, and at that point, the words, I love you, would trip her up. They mean nothing to me, just kind of like a compliment or sign of affection.
Yeah.
Throughout my childhood, I'd mindlessly say I love you to my family, whom I barely even knew. So when do I even say that? Because she went crazy on me for saying it too early.
Advice that you're not asking for directly, but that I'm giving anyway, is to have a conversation about what love means to you.
Yeah.
It's based off of what I said 10 minutes ago about the idiolects. Love is the top word that they say people have different definitions of.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. If we all had the same static definition of love, that would be problematic. We'd be stuck and we'd die out as a species. We wouldn't be growing or progressing. So it's good that people have new ideas of what love means for them and what they need and what they want and what they've experienced. So you have a particular definition of love. So does this partner of yours. I'll know that for some people, the word love is like a bomb going off, or like some type of alarm that everything changes now. This is going to color everything. Now we have all these obligations. Now I have to start doing this and I have to stop doing this. And whoa, I'm not ready for that. This is like I just signed a contract if someone says that they love me. Wait,
without judgment or expectation.
That's Morgan's idea of love, which I happen to align with.
I love it, yeah.
I also love it. Yeah. But, for different people, love can be an obligation, or it can be a threat, or it can be a burden. And that sounds like it might be what your partner's experiencing. So I would go into this conversation less trying to deliver the message of what love does or doesn't mean to you, and ask them what they think when they hear it or when they say it. Like, what does it mean to them, and where did they learn that? That could be a way that you get closer with this person, and if you love them, that might be something you're interested in.
Yeah, yeah. I do want to. There's just so many things I want to address because I think this is so interesting, and there's a lot to unpack. Because I would say that, going out with someone for 2 weeks and then saying I love you, that is quite soon, I think, by most people's standards. So I want to put that out there as a data point.
In what?
In a romantic partnership.
Yeah, but
at any
identify
age.
your demographic.
I think at any age.
No.
What do you mean?
We're in 2019 in California.
I thought you meant the age of the person.
No. I mean, like, these are cultural norms that shift all the time.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to draw attention to the fact that the way that we do things as 30-ish-year-old people in 2019,
yes,
is an anomaly. And these standards are arbitrary and always shifting. So they're not arbitrary, but they're like, this isn't a universal norm that Morgan's describing. This is...
Well, it is. It actually, I think it is. I'm trying to say that like there is no universal like what's right or wrong for you and your circumstances at your time with these two specific people. However, I would say that most people would think saying I love you after 2 weeks is pretty soon.
My grandparents got married on their first date.
What?
That's very common.
Wow.
Yeah. People, this is all new. I don't think that your impression of how normal that is taking into account time, and maybe it's normal in like American export rom-com and Disney influenced love stories that we've told each other for the last 50 years maybe, but beyond that, I mean, that's such a small window in human history that, like, that's shifting still, and you and I are at the forefront of pushing that boundary into a direction that's more healthy and helping people experience more love.
Did your grandparents actually express openly like I love you, let's do this, let's get married right now, tonight was so great, let's do it?
I highly doubt it. I bet it was more of a I would like to marry you. They're not particularly affectionate,
right?
Or so
yeah,
just based on the tone of what you're saying, they may have used the words. I don't know what language was proper then, but I think that many people see marriage as a product of love or as something that goes hand in hand with love. I don't know if they did at the time. But love itself is also in flux in definition.
Sure. But I think a lot of people get married without what I would consider like romantic love even being there.
Sure. And those can be great marriages.
Totally.
There can be, it's
totally, because I mean that's in those cases that's not the goal. The goal is often like family advancement,
or it comes later.
Yeah, sure.
It's a
or
different
family.
type of love.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm making some assumptions based on the fact that this is a person using abbreviations like they're using and on Reddit.
What I would like is for you to say how you'd feel if somebody told you that they loved you in 2 weeks.
It would feel soon.
Okay.
It would feel soon.
And what would go off in your head?
So, yeah, I would evaluate, okay, what are my feelings? Do I have a feeling of love for this person? To me, it's an opportunity to see if there's a match between the pace that each of us respectively is at with the relationship. And so I think that's where for some people can get scary, because I've watched a lot of Bachelor franchise shows, and there are all these like stages of like, okay, now we say like I'm starting to fall for you, and now we say like I love you, and then the person who is the bachelor or the bachelorette really kind of, it's an unwritten rule that they're not really supposed to say like I love you to any of the prospective suitors, to not sort of lead them on or make them think like, oh, I'm definitely going to choose you. It's to be a little more ambiguous. But so it's interesting that there are these kind of standards that are set, but you watch people who start to fall, set by just what becomes the norm in this, like, I don't know, hyper pop American culture. And I think that whether we like it or not, most of us are influenced to some extent by what is quote unquote appropriate or the norm. Even
On
if
The
there,
Bachelor.
of course, is variation. No, I'm using this as like
Why
a
not use The Bachelor?
hyper real example.
Well, that is a norm setting program, right?
So,
Okay.
so if there is someone who is starting to say like, I'm starting to fall for you, or I love you, or whatever, the recipient of that, how they feel is totally going to be based on, well, are they on the same page? Because if you're feeling radically less emotional towards someone who has then expressed a pretty intense desire for you, you become aware of that discrepancy. And then you suddenly go, oh, they often go, oh, I'm not at that level with you. And they even send them home because they're like, oh, it's so different where we're at. And so I could understand a sort of similar thing going on with this question asker of like, they felt maybe that they were on that level. I mean, I do think there is a translation issue because obviously they have two different conceptions of what love is.
What is the biggest thing that stops you from saying that you love a person? Related question. What is the biggest thing that stops you from loving a person? But let's start with let's say that there is some acknowledgement of a feeling of love inside of you and you don't communicate it. Have you been in that situation before?
Sort of. I would.
Really?
I would.
I'm surprised that's not an obvious yes.
Well, sometimes it's like I have to take a minute and go, ooh, I had this feeling. Let me sit with it for a second and check in with myself. Is it real? Is it temporary? You know, is it a little infatuation flame? Is it a deeper kind of, what is it?
You have a high standard for what you call love.
I would say so.
You're stingy with it, the word.
Stingy. I'm not that stingy. Do you feel that I don't say I love you enough?
To me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
For me, a lot of my emotional growth has been about acknowledging different types of love and letting more things count as love in my head.
Sure.
And not thinking like, oh no, well, I have to have dated I have friends who are like, you have to date somebody for at least a year and you have to have met their parents before you love them. I'm like, bullshit. I can fall in love in a 30-second glance. And then that can be a kind of love, or not fall in love, if you want like categorize that as something different. I could feel love. Some form of it.
I think it's different to be like, oh, I have a feeling of warmth or love or compassion.
So what's the difference between I feel love
versus I love you?
I feel love for you versus I love you. I think any way you change it makes it way less threatening for people to receive. So I've practiced like some of these. I'm feeling very loving right now, or I feel love for you, or this is making me feel love.
I think it's great because it is more precise.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people lump all of that stuff into I love you, and then to one person it's like I'm going to marry you, and I only like I have a friend who's like I only want to say that to one person in my entire life, and I'm like, whoa, that's so not where I'm at.
Why would you? Why is that why is that a thing to shoot for? Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because it means something different to them. You know, I mean, there's some. I'm sure there's some.
Like they fucked up if they love two people. That's what I'm reading into it, or I'm assuming. That's my prejudice. But they must think like, oh, I made a mistake if I loved somebody and then I had to love somebody else. And that implies so many things that I think are wrong with that system of love. Like, that you can only love one person at a time. That you're supposed to be certain before you're willing to give away your love, because it's this precious thing that once you give it, it's gone. And no, guys, people who are listening right now, when you give away love, it doesn't mean that you have less of it. It multiplies. Morgan brought this up on the podcast a little while ago. Or something like that, pain and joy. Love is not like pie, where if somebody takes a slice of it away, now you only have 7 slices.
It's not like losing your virginity, which also is pretty insignificant because you can have lots more sex. Love and slut shaming are very similar, I would say.
So if you're still following my thread, it's like pie, P-I, which is infinite and irrational.
Yes, versus an apple pie, which there are only 8 slices of.
Yes.
Yeah. But I do think that people assign different levels of specialness to different demonstrations of love, whether they be physical or emotional.
Sure.
Yeah.
And different demonstrations carry with them different costs. And so it is, I think, reasonable to value them differently or look at them in some type of hierarchy.
Yeah. But so to return to the question of when do I say it, because before she went crazy on me for saying it too early, it's like, well, it was too early for her.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a feeling that to you meant or warranted saying, I love you.
Yeah. Describe the feeling instead next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that person, like talk about, and that requires you knowing it and being able to describe it. But is it like, here's some clues. Look for an openness or a warmth in your chest. Look for a smile creeping across your face. Look for energy or tingles, butterflies in your stomach. These are common phrases that people use to describe the physical sensations of feeling loved towards a person. A magnetism, being drawn towards them, like an attraction, like that you want to put your skin against theirs. Those are some things that you could use if you're feeling them to describe how you're feeling about this person.
Yeah. And I think that there are also things that I want to talk about between, like, I have no feelings for this person, or they're an acquaintance, and like I'm in love with them, because there are other ways of getting validation for your affection or where you're at with them. Like you can say, I like holding your hand. And that might be a similarly loving expression to I love you, you know, in the case of this person, but it's more of we're on the same page with just enjoying what's happening right now versus saying this expression of I love you, which a lot of people do view as a bomb of like, now I have to decide how I feel in relation to this. Am I there? Am I not? Do I see that as a possibility? Do I not? It really kind of freeze frames the relationship and gives the other person a chance to go yes or no in a way that I think is really uncomfortable and confronting.
Yeah, it's a binary that it's a false dichotomy that you're splitting it into. Is this love or not? Well, it probably contains some elements of love for you, but you might not want it to contain all of the things that you think are love that the other person might not even think is love. That's why this conversation about what you think love is and what it means and doesn't mean to you is really important.
Yeah. And what are the differences between familial love and platonic love and romantic love?
Agape.
Because there's some mixture there with this question asker of like, well, in my family, love was just being around each other and not actually that much familiarity or maybe even connection. I
want to link in the description another School of Life video, as I have been doing, 3 Greek, I believe, words for love and how we could use them today better, because we have this catch-all phrase of love, but they are eros, philia, and agape. Eros being the passionate desire you have for a sex partner, philia being the love you have for a friend that you don't have those bodily feelings towards, and then agape being the love that you feel for somebody who is less fortunate than you, who you want to help and make their conditions better.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's like I think it's in like Inuit language, there are like 8 different words for snow, whereas we only have 1 word for snow. And because the conditions where they are, probably they can see a lot more variations and have need for more precise language to refer to this one thing that we would just go, oh yeah, that's fucking snow. And love is one of those things where I feel like there's so much more potential to label, characterize, filter, and be precise with, versus just kind of like plopping a boulder on the table and being like, I love you. Right
now we're calling crimson and tickle me pink and midnight purple and everything, all the shades in between those, we're just calling it all red.
Yeah.
And well, there's a lot of variation in red, so it would be better to learn some new terms and have some more descriptors, because if you're referencing pink and somebody else hears purple, you're going to have a portrait that doesn't have a very consistent color scheme. It's going to have some errors in the end.
Yeah. And so to address your question of like the timing of it, I think it is about what feels right to you ultimately. And it is up to that other person to decide if that's right for them or aligned with them or not. And there's no wrong answer, but I do understand the recipient after 2 weeks feeling like, whoa, that's really early. And so in the future, if you want to avoid this potential pitfall is to kind of walk up to that line more delicately through more precise language, like we're talking about, and kind of assessing for their feelings and staying in pace with each other.
What if you found out that the person who told you that they loved you after 2 weeks says that to 3 or 4 people a week for the first time?
What if I personally found that out?
Yeah, would that change how it feels to hear that? Because I think some of it is the assumption that like, oh, people don't do this except for every couple months or every couple years.
Or they're only saying I love you to one person at a time.
Yes, yeah, that like they don't just freely.
Yeah.
If you found out that love was cheaper for that person than you expected to be.
That would be really disappointing.
Really? If you were scared by them saying it after 2 weeks, you'd be disappointed to find out that they love people or they express love to people regularly?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, if we're looking at that, just that disappoint. I hope not to go into a relationship with those expectations that when someone says I love you, it means they only love me. It means it's this intense. It means they intend to do all these things with me and only me and da-da-da-da-da. I'm a little responsible for the expectations that I'm bringing into it. They're responsible for communicating more precisely, and I'm responsible for, like, what do I think that means and then translating it.
I think I love you is the beginning of a discussion.
Yeah. Certainly not the end. Because love isn't just this final thing you get to.
Yes. It can be a nice way to end an argument. It was by 2 people who feel that, saying that to each other and reminding that like that's there. They acknowledge it. But yeah, your first time saying it, I think there should be some exploration of what that means because, like I said, yeah, people are going to be saying purple and hearing pink.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way that you deliver it, too, is different. Like, if you are like, sit down, I really have to tell you something, and look me in the eyes, and then you're like, I love you, versus just, a pat on the knee, and you're not even looking at the person. You're just like, I love you, or love ya. Like, they're way different.
Yeah.
So there's just so much variation that there really is no wrong answer, but it's more about being sensitive to what is going on live in the connection and the dynamic between the 2 parties.
Yes.
And what will kind of appropriately label it or nurture it versus create this lofty expectation.
Yes. I had a partner who used to just write I love you on pieces of paper and hide it in my shit and not sign it or anything. And I was pretty sure I knew who it was, but I was just like, oh, what a nice, just like a little message that's unsigned, no one's taking credit for this. I just know that someone loves me and put a little piece of paper that said, I love you in my, whatever, in a book that I'm reading or in my wallet or, and just find it at a random moment and be like, oh, yeah, that's really nice.
I have an app that's actually a period tracker, but you can set it to, you can set it to give you a little message. Yeah. It's a reminder to drink water, but I've changed the text to just be, I love you.
No.
And then it's just a little message from myself. So it's like, it fills you with that feeling of like, oh yeah, this is available to me to feel this way, to feel warmth, to feel connected, even if it's just within myself or even if I'm discovering it by myself. And that's the light of the sun.
Yes, unmarred by the clouds of human relationships, interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, completely.
This is our big question, if that's what you're worried
about.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah,
I think
totally
it is.
I mean, this has been thorough and lovely.
Yeah,
so,
I know, and there's so much more we could say about it too.
Big time. It's. Let me also just make one more point that I want to say about it. Okay, if we got an extra moment.
Oh my God.
Oh, do we? Good.
Please do.
Okay. Guy, weird echidna, strange echidna. Some people hear "I love you" as a demand for that to be repeated back to them, and then feel an intense weight and discomfort of, ooh, I don't want to say that, and they just said it to me, so now I either have to lie and say it or end things. And people behave in that dichotomy of like, it would obviously be too uncomfortable for them to say I love you and not hear it back, so I either need to break up with them now or decide that I love them or like tell a lie to stay in the relationship.
Yeah.
And those people, you can guess my opinion, do not need to be doing that. But a lot of people do and have been taught that and heard that from other people. So consider that the person you're dating might have that story going on in their head about that choice that they have to make, they think.
Right. Right. It's sort of like inviting them to level up in the relationship. And if they're like, wow, this step feels too big, then, and they're afraid, it's easier to just be like, never mind, especially after 2 weeks.
Yes.
That's not a long time investment, even though the feelings could be strong.
Sure.
But I mean, it sounds like I do wonder what you meant when you said I love you to this person, because your background of experiencing love, it means, you say it means nothing. It's a compliment or a sign of affection. I'd say it to my family mindlessly, and you barely knew them. Yeah. So you're working on what is my definition of love, even.
Right. What do you mean by that? Do you mean I like you? Because a lot of people do have if you're having sex with someone or kissing them or like moving in that direction, that I love you carries a lot more weight than if you say it to a friend who you have set that boundary of we're not going to kiss or hold hands or do romantic stuff. Romantic love for a lot of people is when they start adding this baggage to it and adding all of these stipulations and subclauses and things that are below the surface that aren't like they're subtext to them. And that 90% of the iceberg is what you need to have the conversation to explore, because love is just the tip of the word that you're uttering. That syllable is like just pointing to their iceberg is probably going to look a lot different than yours.
Yeah.
Or yours might just be an ice cube where you can see pretty much all of it on the surface, and another person has this whole underground system with caverns and danger, and there's a sea lion down there who's going to eat you.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
And global warming in this situation is corporate influence. Love is a thing that was invented by men like Don Draper to sell pantyhose. Okay, that's the love that we're dealing with today. They want it to be very expensive and rare, and for us to believe that it is scarce and something that has to be earned, not something that we're deserving of just for who we are, but it's something that we have to earn because of what we do. And maybe if I earn enough money to buy this cologne, maybe then I'll be worthy of true love. That's what they fucking say. The true love thing. Maybe if I can afford that fancy diamond ring, I'll be worth her true love.
I'll stop admiring in false love.
Love is this fucking carrot that they dangle in front of you on the hamster wheel to get you into the corporate machine and get you fucking...
It's always about what you don't have. It's always what you don't have.
And here's the real truth that would, if enough people believed it, the system would crumble, is there is an abundance of love and people do it naturally, and we don't need colognes, we don't need deodorant, we don't need fancy things. We're worth it without all of that. And it's already there if you're willing to go for it and give it. If you're willing to receive it, that's really the hard part.
Giving it and receiving it.
Yes. I think it's harder to accept somebody else's love than to tell somebody else you love them. But
I think it depends on what you've grown up with.
I think generally it's harder to receive it and accept it. Yeah, so remember all that stuff. And please, I just wanted to say thank you for being on Team Love and expressing it. That's a hard thing to do, and I think the world is a better place the more often that people say I love you and mean it. So,
and look for things that they love. And like I would invite you too, as a solo process, to explore, okay, how can I feel and cultivate love for myself in a way that is mindful and not a mindless sign of affection, and what are the different gradients and like tonalities to all these feelings I can have. What's the difference between love and affection and lust and fondness? That's
a good, set up a continuum for yourself where a 1 is the weakest form of love you've ever experienced, and a 10 is like the most intense, biggest form or strongest form of love that you've ever experienced. And then try and think, okay, what am I feeling for this person? For this person right now. And like maybe express that to them. That's a great conversation technique for anything that somebody makes an absolute statement.
Even just filling in what 2 through 9 are, or stretching that scale out to not just be a 0 or a 1, like a binary thing in every facet of your life is like so many people don't do because we're used to this black and white thinking. Honestly, because it's just easier to distill things down to like yes, no, black, white, all, nothing. But there's so much richness, but also uncertainty and fear in that middle gray area.
There's art to it.
everything's a fucking art. Everything's a fucking art form.
Yeah.
And you will find too that what used to be a 10 for you is now a 5 because you can expand even your ability to give and receive love, and you will experience new and different and fuller and deeper types of love with different people as you live life and have more experiences. Like I remember, like, you know, my first love, we talked about Kareem, my first boyfriend. It's like the kind of love I felt for Kareem was like wonderful, beautiful, the fullest kind of romantic love I'd felt at that time. But looking back on it, I've had more things going on that have surpassed that. And it doesn't invalidate the fact that I did love that person at that time. But it's like, oh, wow, I've stretched my capacity to feel this amazing thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Always stretching, always trying to love more. That's us. That's our motto on Free Advice.
It is.
That's why we give away our advice. It's our way of loving you guys.
Yeah. In ourselves.
And ourselves. And each other.
And making that money down the road. Look out, here we come with expensive advice. $300 a word.
Yeah. Buy the cologne and use the promo code FREEADVICE to save 10% on true love.
Just $270 a word. Oh, that's a deal you can't beat.
Can't beat it.
Okay, guys. I gotta go.
We love you.
Love you. Sleep
Bye.
tight.